The most dangerous man in any civilization is not the one who demands power. It is the one the crowd silently selects to carry what it cannot carry within itself. You know this experience. You have felt it without being able to name it. A person enters a room and something shifts, not the air itself, but the posture of those inside it. Conversations subtly reorganize. Attention moves without instruction. No one announces authority, yet authority is sensed. The room adjusts as though responding to gravity. That reaction is older than language, and it is not charisma. It is not status. It is not even persuasion. It is psychological activation. Deep beneath conscious thought, beneath opinions and declared values, something inside the human mind responds automatically to certain personalities. This response does not ask for permission. It does not consult logic. It simply recognizes. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung devoted decades to understanding what lives in that hidden layer of the psyche. He was not concerned primarily with political systems or institutional power. He was concerned with what happens inside an individual the moment they encounter a figure who feels larger than life. What he discovered was unsettling. The rise of dangerous leaders is not merely a political accident. It is not solely manipulation, corruption, or broken systems, though those exist. The deeper story unfolds inside the unconscious, and the unconscious does not operate according to the narratives we tell about ourselves. Jung introduced a concept that remains essential: the shadow. The shadow is not simply the dark side of personality. It is not villainy hiding in secret. It is everything you learned you were not allowed to be. The anger that made others uncomfortable. The ambition that seemed inappropriate. The hunger for recognition that was never satisfied. The desire for dominance that felt unsafe to express. These parts are not erased. They are stored, pressurized. When an individual suppresses these qualities, they do not disappear. They migrate into the unconscious. And what we cannot own internally, we project externally. We begin to see in others what we cannot tolerate in ourselves. The emotional intensity of admiration or hatred often signals not an accurate perception of another person, but an encounter with our own disowned qualities reflected back to us. Now expand this mechanism beyond the individual. Imagine millions of people shaped by similar cultural restraints, similar generational wounds, similar prohibitions against expressing power, rage, hunger, and uncertainty. What happens when an entire society accumulates unintegrated shadow material? Projection scales. The crowd begins to search, unconsciously, for someone strong enough to embody what they have collectively suppressed. And when such a personality appears, the response is immediate. Before policies are examined, before logic is engaged, before evidence is weighed, the emotional atmosphere shifts. Skepticism softens. Certainty becomes magnetic. This is not stupidity. It is archetypal activation. Jung described another phenomenon, persona inflation. Every person wears a persona, a social mask necessary for functioning in society. The danger arises when the mask fuses with the ego, when the individual can no longer distinguish between role and self. Under mass admiration, this fusion accelerates. When millions reflect back an image of strength, certainty, and greatness, the psyche absorbs it. Doubt erodes, self-correction weakens, conscience becomes quieter. The leader does not merely act powerful, he experiences himself as fundamentally exceptional. Reality begins to bend around certainty rather than evidence. At this stage, the individual ceases to function as a private human navigating complexity. He becomes a symbol. And symbols do not question themselves. They represent, they embody, they move with archetypal force. Among Jung's archetypes is the ruler, the primordial image of order, control, and structure. This archetype intensifies during periods of collective anxiety, when the world feels unstable, when the future appears ambiguous, when shared meaning fragments. The psyche seeks containment, not truth, relief. The certain voice replaces the nuanced one. The absolute statement outperforms the careful analysis, not because intelligence has diminished, but because anxiety has activated a deeper psychological need. The dangerous personality does not invent this need. The need summons the personality. And once established, a feedback loop begins. Anxiety increases, projection intensifies, power consolidates, inflation grows, decisions amplify instability, instability fuels further projection. From inside the system, this loop feels like destiny, it feels like meaning unfolding, but psychologically, it is possession. Evidence cannot easily interrupt this state, because what is being defended is not merely a leader, it is an identity investment. To dismantle the projection would require confronting the shadow that created it, and that confrontation is profoundly uncomfortable. The crowd defends not because it is blind to danger, but because acknowledging the danger would require self-recognition. Jung insisted that susceptibility to this dynamic is universal. Education does not exempt you. Intelligence does not exempt you. Awareness widens the pause between stimulus and response, but it does not eliminate the unconscious substrate. So what interrupts the pattern? Not better systems alone, not procedural reform alone, psychological integration, shadow work, the disciplined act of turning inward and asking, what in this figure feels like relief? What part of myself have I externalized? What certainty am I borrowing from another person because I cannot generate it internally? This process is demanding at the individual level. At the collective level, it is nearly invisible. It spreads slowly, unevenly through culture, through art, through conversation, through individual reckoning. Absent this integration, the cycle repeats. History documents this repetition with unsettling consistency. When collapse arrives, the common question is, how did this person gain so much power? The rarer question is, what were we carrying that made this person feel necessary? Jung spoke late in life about the problem of evil, not as theology, but as psychology. The capacity for harm is not foreign to humanity, it is native. It lives within ordinary individuals. Projecting that capacity outward does not eliminate it, it relocates it. The dangerous leader is not an alien force invading civilization. He is assembled from its unprocessed grief, its shame, its grandiosity, its hunger for significance, its fear of uncertainty. Remove him without addressing the underlying hunger, and another will arise. The form may change, the face may differ, the projection remains. The most dangerous force in civilization, Jung suggested indirectly, is not ambition itself, it is avoidance. The daily